Yeah, thanks, Vinny. The human-centered design process, that was actually a pretty fun project. We did two aspects of that. We did human-centered design and a non-human-centered design approach. So the human-centered design approach very much is employee intensive, where we work not only with leadership and HR, but we're working with a dedicated group of employees who are very interested in making changes in the workplace. And so a lot of this looks like the employees taking a lot of responsibility and understanding and learning different processes. So they learn things like how to interview their employees, they or their colleagues. They learn things like how to create surveys, how to do focus groups, how to sift through data and feedback and find themes. Um, Coming together frequently, almost at that point, we were meeting weekly. A lot of times it was when they were finished their shift, right? So they're dedicating time after work to do this. And so um, there are a lot of it's a very collaborative process that the employees really take a lot of ownership over. But the other side of that is that they learn so much, right? They're getting a lot of skill they wouldn't normally have gotten by just by their regular job. And so we found that there were employees that realized or discovered like through the process, hey, I really love this type of work. Like we had one worker who said, I actually want to go into OD work. Like I want to go into change management. Like I don't want to work for this, this restaurant for the rest of my time. I know I'm young, like I want to do something different. We had another employee that really stepped up to really take ownership over one of the outcomes. We had a company that realized that their front of house was making a lot more than back of house, right? Tips, all of that stuff. And so the company wanted to implement a gain share program. We had another company, or the same company actually, they realized that there were some inconsistencies in their food making process. And so the employees came up with after they collected all the information and all of that feedback, really came up with some very creative ways to try to make their to try to make necessary adjustments in the processes that they saw needed some support. That the employer probably may, a lot of times leadership knows that things are happening or they're kind of guessing and they're like, I think this is an issue, but there's so many other things, like I don't know. And so it really helps to provide some clarity for everyone. The non-HCD, non-human centered design process that we did was um, it was a lot less dependent on the employees themselves, and we worked directly with the HR director and other leadership. So in that, we still conducted a survey that's really core to our work is getting feedback. And so feedback from leadership, feedback from management, and feedback from employees through a survey. And so we worked with the HR director to implement an employee-wide survey, um, a company-wide survey. We did a lot of focus groups drilling down after that. We got, the information back from the surveys, developed some very strategic and pointed questions based on that and conducted focus groups and then conducted one-on-one interviews.
Mm.
And so once we're able to gather all of that information, the HR director, they're able to make different decisions. They're able to say, okay, for the other, there's a company where they couldn't understand why their frontline installers were turning over so fast. So they'd come in, get hired, go through the process, and they were gone in 90 days. And this had become a trend for the company. So this was a huge question and a huge cost and burden for the company, the management teams. And for HR, having to retrain and retrain, rehire, go through onboarding consistently. So they were really trying to understand what was causing folks to leave. Is it a dollar more somewhere else? Like, what are we doing? And so through the process of collecting all of this feedback, they were really able to pinpoint what was going on. And the HR director made a lot of changes in their hiring and onboarding and training process that allowed for folks to stay a lot longer and then be able to progress throughout the company. So it's really about starting with what the business has challenges with. We'll talk to leadership and decision makers. What are your pain points? Like, what are your business challenges? What keeps you up at night? What's really happening? And then once we have that information and go through the process of collecting feedback from everyone else, synthesizing data, we then are able to circle back to those initial questions to say, well, here's what we think. Here's what we see based on the information that we got. Here's how things align or may not align to what, the challenges are. And a lot of times employers, they have ideas as to what they can do to make the changes, right? They just don't know how to make the changes. It just is burdensome, or they're kind of guessing and they say, well, if I do this and that's not it, now I've wasted all this time. So it really gives them a chance to have some more clarity and more strategic direction so that they can focus on the changes that they want to make and make those changes.